Welcome to the number one friendship podcast in the country. I'm Aaron Cairo.
I'm Matt Ritter.
And remember, go to manoftheyearpodcast.com to grab our merch and watch our episodes on YouTube. Matt, a bit of a rant. I feel like parents, and I'm talking about our parents, older parents, we need to teach them how to deliver news in a way that doesn't make you completely panic.
Okay.
My mom called me a couple weeks ago and she goes, "So your dad's in the hospital." I go, "What?" I go, What's going on? What's happening?" She goes, "Oh no, his cardiologist, his office is there. So just a routine checkup." I'm like, why would you lead with that? That makes no sense. Or like I was at home, I was in Plainview, and my dad, he called me and he's like, "I got bad news." I'm like, "What's the matter?" He's like, "They had a chicken wings at ShopRite, the ones that you like." I'm like, "Dad, you guys are 75 years old. You can't start saying statements like that."
That is bad news. That is bad news. No chicken wings. What about, I usually already do this, like not to alarm you as a preamble.
I almost did a spit take. That's worse.
That's worse?
I think you got to start. Worse? I think you got to start even more like everything's fine. No, everybody's okay. And then say, we had a routine checkup at the hospital or something like that. Okay. Not to alarm you is the most alarming thing anyone has ever said to me.
No, you're right. You're right. Everything's okay. But that also makes me think everything's not okay.
No, if you say nobody's fine, everybody's okay, nobody's hurt, and then you go into it.
Or everything's fine. It's not an emergency, but.
Yeah, so I don't know why. Maybe it's just your vibe, but everything you're saying is like making me
alarmist. Everything sounds alarmist underneath. The words I'm saying are not alarmist, but the way I'm saying them are super alarmist.
What was the last thing?
Nobody's dead except Grandpa. He's dead.
Right. No, but what was the emergency thing you just said?
I said not to alarm you. It's not an emergency.
Oh God, my hackles have just risen when you say it's not an emergency, but I'm at the LA Central booking.
So you think you should just say everything's fine.
Say everything's fine, everything's fine, nothing to worry about.
Okay. All right. I like that. All right. To all of our older listeners, take that cue.
All right, Matt. This episode's 2 years in the making. So almost exactly 2 years ago in episode 24, we took the first annual social fitness test to determine our social fitness score. So our listeners will know that we are pushing this idea of social fitness. You have physical fitness, you're going to the gym, mental health, you are going to see a therapist. But let's talk about social fitness, which is the strength of your relationships and friendships. And how do you know how strong you are unless you test it, buddy?
I love how you said it's our first annual, but that we also skipped our second annual.
And we only did it one other time. Now, Better Organized Podcast would have our scores from last time. We don't have them. And also I checked and we changed the rubric a little bit, but I think this is what we landed on as our way to determine how strong your friendships are. So what you guys are going to do, you could just do it in your head. You don't have to write it down unless you want to. We're going to rate each of these friendship categories from 1 to 5. Okay. So 1 is that you're really lacking in this. And 5 is that you're absolutely crushing in it. And I also want to explain that like, these are pretty broad terms that are applying to your entire friend group. So you may have one friend who's not doing this and 6 friends who are doing X. You just want to give yourselves an overall snapshot. Does that make sense, Matt?
Yeah. But also I'm pretty sure I got a 28 and you got a 27 last time. Not to.
You sure?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Pretty sure.
I mean, should I look it up?
Yeah, I'd say I'm almost 100% sure.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, Matt does have an insane memory for this stuff. Let's do one quick check and see if we've got it. And we don't. So
I have to go back and listen.
All right. So the first category is bidirectionality. And bidirectionality, hold on, you made me look for my thing and I lost my whole thing. We're really okay. So bidirectionality means whether it's initiating plans, sharing updates, or checking in during tough times. The effort among your friends is both ways. Another way we call this is being ambidextrous, never really caught
Mhm.
on, but like your friendships are a two-way street.
So is this judging both yourself, the way you do it, and the way your friends are doing it?
Great question. And the answer is yes. So you need to be able to be reaching out to other people and you're making plans with them. And you're giving as much as you're getting.
I mean, look, I think it's a super important one. I'm glad we did that one first because you know what I always say, no friendships are 50-50. So I like
Mhm.
the idea of just looking at it holistically. Does it feel, unbalanced? Does it not feel right? Do you feel like the burden is on you, or is the burden always on the other person? Because I know for sure in some of my friendships, like some people are doing more of the planning or whatever, and others I'm doing more of the planning.
So you're going to give yourself a score?
I will, you know what? I'll give myself a 4 because if I give myself 5s on everything, it's gonna feel not great.
Oh,
For
wow. You're getting a little cocky, I feel like.
no, I'm saying I think I'm being genuinely honest. I don't think I'm a 5 at this because I
So
don't
actually,
think. Yeah, no, I
yeah.
was gonna say I don't think. Um, I just think overall, not it's not like whether I do it the best or the other person does it. I think my friendships, um, some of them are just still a little imbalanced. I haven't totally fixed some of the imbalances in some of them.
So I actually remember what I said 2 years ago. As you were saying it, it reminded me. And the same thing holds true, which is that my relationships are a little unbalanced. I give more than I get, but it's because I don't really need as much. I'm not necessarily asking for more. Um,
It's
what do you
funny.
think
I
about that?
wonder if I said this 2 years ago because I used to feel that way, and now I feel I expect more, and so that has made the imbalance feel greater to me.
But I don't. I'm not. It's not a problem. I don't
No, but
expect.
for
I'm
me,
not.
it's become more of a problem. I'm saying for
No,
me,
no.
in my life, I've decided that I want to respect myself more. And part of respecting myself more and being healthier for myself is expecting more in those friendships. So I think then I've noticed more of the imbalance in the past 2 years. And I haven't totally corrected it. So that's why I'm giving myself a 4, but I'm getting there.
Interesting. So I'm going to give myself a 4 too. But we're almost giving ourselves fours for different reasons.
Because we're different people and we have different needs. And that's what's interesting about this. This is a very subjective test for everybody.
All right. So the next topic is vulnerability, the ability to share your authentic self, include your fears, struggles, hopes, dreams without judgment or rejection. And Matt, I would say, as to your last question, this would also be a both ways thing. Are other people vulnerable with you?
I'm giving myself a 5. And I feel really proud of the progress that I've made on my own friendship vulnerabilities. I feel a lot of people have always kind of come to me. We joke about how I attract the sad sacks, but I've not always been one who was totally open about this stuff. And we had this dinner party last year that really locked it in for me, where we had everybody go around and talk about something that they were really scared to do this coming year. And if they said it, it might help them do it and self actualize. And I
Mhm.
just felt like such a big moment, not just for every person at the table, but in my own life. I felt my vulnerability get self actualized in that moment. So I don't know. I keep going back to that moment, being like, wow, that was my growth moment. I hit it there, and I'm keep running through the tape.
I know, Matt, that must have been a very pivotal moment in your life because you've brought it up like 7 times.
Yeah, but I keep seeing all those other people, and I'm checking in on them about that stuff that we all talked about that we wanted to do.
I love that. I am going to give myself a 4 only because I want to give myself a little bit room to grow. I certainly feel that people can be their authentic self and be vulnerable with me. I probably this is more to our last question, more me that I don't necessarily uh am vulnerable to other people. Now, what do you think about this? I was thinking about this the other day. You're gonna probably laugh. Did you ever notice that I don't I don't really complain that much? Now I'm have a general complaining manner, and maybe you and I have a different relationship, but I don't necessarily I'm not much of a complainer.
No, neither am I. I think most generally we keep our stuff to ourselves. I respect that, to be honest.
Yeah.
Look, I don't think that's not being vulnerable. I think that's, I don't know. There's a lot of positive attributes to that.
Yeah. So all right, should I up myself to a 5 or should I keep myself at a 4?
Whatever you feel, but I do want to
I'm
also incorporate our listeners. So what are you giving yourself?
Okay, so I'm giving a 4. I'm writing it down, so we're gonna have it for next year.
Yeah. So what tip can we give our listeners who are maybe
Oh.
scoring themselves, a 3 or below here?
Yeah. So, I mean, it depends if it's outgoing or incoming, but let's do away with the sort of notion that especially male friendships have to be on the surface and you can only talk about sports and interest rates. Like your friendships will be deeper and more interesting and more valuable if you are talking below the surface. Also, let's face it, we're guys. Your wife cannot be the only person that you emote with. Like she can't handle all that.
Right.
Like
You need the OSOs.
You need the OSOs, other significant others.
And we always say thanks is a gateway emotion. If you're not at the point of vulnerability where you're telling your friends you love them, we hope you get there one day. But showing gratitude is a really easy way. Thanks for picking me up. Thanks for buying me lunch. Thanks for remembering my birthday.
Matt, you practiced what you preached yesterday. You called me at like 6:30 p.m., which for both of us is like midnight. And you just wanted to say thank you. I was like, oh, what's wrong? What's going on? What do you need? And you're like, no, just
why are you calling me? I'm like, I just honestly felt you did a really solid thing for me, and I wanted it to be acknowledged properly.
And by the way, who does not like when someone does that to them?
Yeah, that was a good one. That was a good one.
So that's a good hack, Matt, for getting more vulnerable. Is like say thank you to your buddies.
Yeah.
All right. The next topic, and again, this is our social fitness test, is wisdom. So wisdom in friendships is like having friends who offer thoughtful, meaningful insights to help you navigate life's complexities. So it's sort of vulnerability adjacent. It's like, do you have people to ask for advice? Do people that you trust and you can confide in, that kind of thing?
So I'm going to give myself a 3. Here.
Whoa.
I have been struggling with this for a lot of my adult life. I have my ups and downs with it. I feel I'm at a bit of a new phase, not just the parenting with where career, like what do I ultimately want my life to look like? And I don't necessarily think I have a collection of people who sort of know me well enough and have the wisdom to impart on some of those choices that I want to make in the next couple of years.
So basically more successful friends.
I don't think it's just success. I think it's like, it depends on how you view success.
Yeah.
Like I think for properly parenting, for what sort of schools that I'm looking for my kids, but also, just how to navigate the ins and outs, obviously, of our industry. We're also now kind of in a new industry with what we're doing with the pod and all the other things that we can't really talk about. I don't feel I have, I don't even want to call them mentors, but just people who have necessarily walked all of the paths that I'm trying to walk.
And what about people coming to you for wisdom?
So I feel I'm, I don't want to, toot my own horn. I do feel I have a lot of people who come to me. I wish more did. I feel I've learned a lot of things that I'm happy to share with people, but maybe I wish more people look to me for wisdom. I don't know. I feel like I'm pretty well-rounded in the things that I've, for people that are younger than me or not than that.
This is one of my best categories. This is an easy 5 for me. I feel like I have a lot of people I can call on for wisdom or advice, and I do so. I feel like a lot, as you know, I'm a mentor to several mentees. I have a check-in on Monday with one of my mentees. So a lot of people are coming to me to wisdom. I think the right amount of, someone just introduced me to someone yesterday. This guy, he's a Wall Street banker. He's 45. He's crushing it, but he wants to do stand-up. Can you talk to him? I was like, if he wants to throw his life away,
Right,
sure.
Right. I get a lot of that, but where are the ones that, do you feel, I'm just saying I'm being genuinely serious.
Yeah.
So you actually feel because we have always longed for mentors. You feel on that other side of it, you are sated with the number of people and the quality of people that you can go to for all your questions.
Yeah. I hadn't thought about the mentor thing specifically. And that's what we talked about 2 years ago. Now I'm remembering it. I've almost like that ship has sailed. I'm 45 years old. will I ever have a mentor? I think I'm the mentor. That's it. I've the mentee has
Maybe
become
that's
the
my
mentor.
problem. Maybe that's my problem. I won't give up on finding somebody older.
But you've been cultivating some
Oh, I've
mentors.
been cultivating, but I haven't, I'm not, as I said, I'm giving myself a 3 because I want to grow. I want to keep going here.
You know, my cousin who just started Hofstra Law, he reached out to an alumni of his undergrad university on LinkedIn, and just for some advice. And this guy responded so effusively. He basically was like, "I will mentor you." And I was like, "Oh my God, I'm like, do you even understand how great this is? Like, run
Mhm.
with this forever."
Run,
Yeah.
run. If you get a mentor, latch on like a parasite. Get inside their body and control it like one of those little parasites that control the ants. You know, have you seen the zombie ants?
Of course.
Yeah. Wait, but I
Matt,
was gonna say for our listeners on this,
yeah.
if you are feeling you're 3 or below, I always say I think a couple pieces of helpful advice. One is when seeking out wisdom or mentors, tell people, try to be as specific as possible about what it is that you're seeking guidance on, because I think it's easier for people to offer that wisdom or that guidance other than you just being like, yeah, maybe I want to do this, maybe I want to do that. And then they can't kind of steer you in the right direction.
So Matt, I think you'd appreciate this. So my cousin sent me the outgoing message he was sending this guy and was like, "I love, some career advice to hear a little bit more about your story. Like if you have any internships." I'm like, "Take that last part out. Like, don't ask him for anything in the initial email.
Mm-hmm.
Just talk to him. Don't
Yep.
ask him for anything. See where it comes."
And what do you think about the offering of some sort of value? It's tricky, right? When you're in that intern phase or looking for, because you think of yourself as somebody who can't add value. How would you address that?
So I love that. I'm so far gone from corporate America because what we do in our careers, we say, "Happy to read anything if you want eyes
Yeah,
on something."
yeah.
I don't know what a law
You know
student
what I
can.
do? I would send them relevant articles, anything that you think is informationally valuable.
Oh, that's interesting. Huh. I thought
News
you
in their
might.
industry. So I know this from the recruiting headhunting hustle that I also have.
Yeah.
Is sometimes I'll send people just interesting news in their industry that they're probably not aware of. I get a lot of news stuff, like breaking news stuff sent to me. So I find that to be a value add when I go, man, I can't really help this person in any other way, but that is helpful.
Yeah. That's great. That's great. So, Matt, I think we're going to do a little left turn. We usually take a listener question now. Let's keep going with the test. If we have time
Yep.
at the end, we'll do the question. Otherwise, we'll do it next time. So, the next one is proximity, which is how close your friends live to you. The opposite of this would be what we call bros in different area codes, where your friends are spread out all over the place. And, we have said that having friends in other cities is great and there's opportunities for travel, but ultimately, proximity will always trump everything else. You need people to see in person and touch them and give them high fives and go to lunch together. So what would you, I mean, I can guess what your proximity score is going to be.
I mean, I'm giving myself a 5. I'm thriving in my neighborhood. I mean,
Yeah.
every day I have what we call it the balanced diet, the
The dude pyramid.
dude pyramid. We have the dude pyramid, which we talked about, which is the 3 groups, which is alone time, outer circle, and
Yeah.
inner circle. And so
Yeah.
I have my alone time, I have my walks, I have my meditation. My outer circle, I have all the random people in my neighborhood that know me that make me feel good just to get a nod or a hello or a quick chat while they're walking their dog or person in the coffee shop. And then I have my inner circle. I have my morning coffees. We have our random happy hours. I have my neighbor sometimes just inviting me over for random things. And so I've really cultivated. I have people doing pop-ins before dinner. We invite people for pool dates. And my school is within a mile of here. My kid's school. I was just there this morning. I was late to the pod because of that, because I was doing a talk with the rabbi, actually.
Mm.
So I've really, really, really gone local. You know that I'm the biggest proselytizer,
Mm-hmm.
evangelist
Evangelist.
for,
Yeah.
for proximity. And I'm 100% practicing what I preach. I could not say enough about how important I think it is.
By the way, when you say proximity, I love how you consider that your block. I mean, I usually mean the city, at least. If you have friends in the city, I think that's okay too.
That's why I'm giving myself a 5. I don't even have to leave my block.
Right. Right. But I'm saying, if your buddies live in the same town as you, I think if you live in, financial district and your friends are in the Upper East Side, that's okay.
Yes.
Yes. So, to our listeners, like, this is a good time to take stock of like, oh, if you're like, all my friends live somewhere else. We just did an episode about moving there. Just something to think about if your friends aren't close,
So what do you
right?
think? Yes. No, I agree. I'm just saying.
I'm a 5'2". I'm a 5'2".
Yeah.
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 Okay. Now we're gonna. Did you have something else, or?
Well, no, I think we should just talk a little bit about how you can improve that, with other than moving.
Oh, right. Well, we have 100 episodes of how to make a new friend where you live, which is find your third place.
Right. Right. So I think just obviously a reminder, third places are a good place to sort of build some of that community and improve your proximity score.
Yeah, and let's expand a third place, a place where people socialize and gather, or an activity. So
Right.
it's anywhere from a coffee shop or a gym to a political organization or a run club, and you have to go regularly and consistently. If you do an activity or you find a place to hang out, you can't just randomly go once in a while. Same time every week, same time every day, and eventually you will meet some people.
Right. And then you can stop saying, oh, this insert city sucks for making friends.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. Because that's a limiting belief. Your city does not suck, and you don't suck. All right. Let's talk about the sticky wicket. Let's talk about your diversity score. So, this doesn't necessarily mean, our traditional definitions of diversity, gender, ethnicity, and race or sexual orientation. This is more about friends who occupy different roles in your life. So you've got work friends, you've got couple friends, you've got your activity friends, your gym friends, you got friends you're really tight with, you got friends you see every once in a while. So this is more kind of like your mix, like what your cornucopia of friends is like. Is it, if you just only have 5 work friends, that could be an issue because, you get fired. That's the end of that. Or if your friends are only from your run club, but that's only once a week and you never see them. So this is kind of your mix of friends, and about regular diversity too, I suppose.
Yeah. It's funny because mine, I could look at mine in different ways, but I'm going to give myself a 4. On the one hand, I've got a lot of friends from a lot of different walks of life. On the other hand, just in the phase of life I'm in right now, I'm not really diversifying. And I think I'm being a little bit intentional about not doing that because I'm, like you always say, I spread myself too thin. I've been trying to avoid that. But somehow, sometimes in avoiding that, I'm longing for just kind of the little bit of irregularity in what I have. It's almost like very flat.
I'm also going to give myself an aspirational 4 in that I do have a pretty diverse, crew, people from different walks of life, not only industry people, people don't know each other, people who are new friends, people who are old friends. But, you know, meeting more randos
Yeah.
is it's funny because my New Year's resolution the past 2 years is honor the inner circle, meaning,
Right.
spend time with the
You were big
inner.
on this. You were big on this.
And I feel like I've been doing a pretty good job. But like, that we've talked about this, like those new randos are the spice of life.
They are. They are.
Like
I try to make one new friend every year.
Are you just deciding that now?
No, I've always kind of done that. Or like every couple of years, I try to like incorporate one new one.
But I feel like you made 40 new friends in the past 2 years.
No, I know, but like one quality one.
Right. Right. Yeah, I don't know that I've added a inner circle person in many a year. And I actually I'm trying to honor the initial ones, but I'd like to make kind of someone who like does some random thing. I don't know, goes to
Yeah.
women's soccer games or like.
Yeah, I miss that too. I miss the like somebody who's just not in our lanes.
Yeah, but still gets you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Our group is well, it's not
I said
homogenous.
flat. I said
Yeah.
flat. Because it's not like an insult. I just think it's a little flat.
Yeah. And I think, for our listeners, if your diversity score is low, some of it is about embracing randomness. So we just said in the previous segment to embrace consistency, but we also tell our listeners to embrace randomness, which is sometimes you just got to do a random ass thing, and sometimes by yourself.
Right. Like if you are interested in meeting somebody who likes to mix it up in politics, go to one of those debate live things that are going on.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Or, I'm just trying to think of like the random, it's also like if a, industry stuff is happening or work stuff, like personal development stuff, conferences. This will come out after this, but I'm going to a conference in 2 weeks in Atlanta, Matt. Like, no one person there, but
No, that'll be good though. That'll be good.
I'm just trying to make a friend, actually. See if I can make a friend.
Yes.
All right.
Challenge.
Challenge accepted. All right. Our last one is quantity. Now, quantity and friendship, this is a little bit more nuanced. Okay. Obviously, quality over quantity is not what we always say, but what the trope is. But the reality is, for friendship, I'd rather you have like one best friend than 10 hangers on. But life changes, people move, people get fired, God forbid people pass away, people are busy, people get married. So quantity is an important factor. And then before we score ourselves, Matt, sort of, you want to just talk a little bit about sort of quantity debate we've sort of had on this pod about, is more better in friendship or does it not matter?
As I've said, I think more is better. I'm very much a believer in what you just said about, things change. And so it's almost like you have a safety net. You've got a valve that you can open in case, in case of, remember Chris Rock's joke about like the backup friend guy, that the women always kept around. Well, maybe we need to keep around some other friends. I have a friend who's moving away to France right now. And that's disappointing. I have another friend who's contemplating moving back to New York. And it's just, those would be daunting for me, I think, if I were just relying on those two friends. And then, oh man, now where am I? But I think there's a right number too, because I'm going to give myself a 5 on friendship quantity because my cup runneth over. And I'm now in the zone where I'm like, I'm not sure I have capacity to make any more new friends right now.
But yet you call me tomorrow and be like, I ran into this guy in the street and now we're getting coffee and he's my best friend and blah, blah, blah.
No, but I've noticed myself doing that thing where, and I don't like to do this, where you're having that text with somebody new and you're like, we should get together. And I'm doing that we should get together thing for months at a time.
Yeah.
Which we all hate. I'm guilty of it right now because it's because I'm literally looking at the schedule and there's just no conceivable way that I could grow a new friendship right at this moment.
Yeah. I am also giving myself a 5, but I will say, listen, over in 2024, I could think of a handful of times where I was like, you know what? I'd like to grab a beer or something like that. And like, you weren't around. Maybe it was like a summer weekend and people were traveling or at weddings. And I was like, oh, I actually don't really have someone to hang out with at this moment. And I have, quite a bit of friends. So I don't know if that would be addressed by having even more friends, but I'm saying quantity is important for everybody.
Yeah. And by the way, Jesse always hounds me on that because sometimes I go, I told you I get the blues in the late afternoons, which I have not been getting lately because I'm too busy.
Yeah.
Which to me, my therapist was always like, it's okay. If you need to be too busy and that's how you function, fine. Like I literally haven't had the blues in a while in the late afternoon, but being like, oh man, I don't have anybody to hang out with. But Jesse also disabused me of that notion because she was like, you have 100 friends. That's nonsense. It's 2:00 on a Tuesday.
Well, she was meaning like you have all these friends and you can't see them because what do you mean? It's the middle of a work day is what you're saying.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Or when like last minute I have free time and I haven't planned anything. She's like, no, that's just because you didn't plan anything and people plan.
Right. Right. But I still, yeah. And, I still think again, I'd rather have one really close friend than, 10. Because you know what? On those days where I didn't really have anyone to hang out with, I could have gone to the outer circle, but I didn't really want to. I'd rather not do anything then. So that those friends are pointless.
Then they're not really your friends.
No. They're my friends. It's just like maybe that beer. They're not beer drinking friends. They're non-alcoholic.
I was going to say maybe that's a sign that they're not really your friends. If it's a random day that you want to have a drink at a bar, which is a very low bar, it's a low bar,
Yeah.
and you're not willing to dip into that pool. Because I've been there too. Like I find myself alone in a bar. I've got an hour to kill. Like could maybe text an outer friend.
No, but that just mean like, if I have a friend from the run club, that doesn't mean
Right.
they're a beer friend
Right.
or something.
Okay. Yeah, maybe that's
Yeah.
right. So any other advice for our friend, our people on the quantity of it all? What's
Listen,
the
I
right
think
number? We gotta have 3 at least for health.
3 close friends who live near you.
Yeah, that's your ideal.
Yeah. I think
I'm not
obviously
saying you
not.
have to have it, and if you don't have it, it's okay. We're gonna help you, but that's our goal.
Yeah, because that means you're going out. If you're all friends with each other, that's 4 people. So that's great. And yeah, I think 3, like that's, listen, who do I really hit up? I hit up you, I hit Fireball Adam, and I hit up Jeff. Those are my first 3 calls usually. So that's sort of what we have now,
Yeah.
or I have.
Yeah.
So I think that's good. All right, Matt, should I add them up?
Yeah.
All right, Matt 26, Cairo 27.
All right. So I went down, but I also think 2 years ago I was being less. I don't want to say honest, but I had less insights.
Well, you won last year, I thought.
2 years ago I won. Yes.
I mean, it's
But
not a competition, but
I won based on having less insights about myself.
right. It's and we scored a 20. You had a 26 and I had 27, so we're pretty high. There's always room for growth. I mean, also we're the ones doing this podcast because we're Apex friends, chief friendship officers. But I would say if your number is in the low 20s or below, that is a little bit of a cause for concern. That maybe you need to do social inventory, which is like actually make a list of your friends and like be a little bit more intentional about who they actually are, and then kind of think about, well, how can I improve?
Yeah, I think Cairo's right. The social inventory is important. Kind of right. I think you should write out on a little note on the Notes app a list of your friends, and then kind of star the ones that you're feeling really good about, and see if there's ways to improve those ones. I think that would be my first step.
And even if the list is pretty short, it's just a good visual representation. And like, and also if 7 of the 10 live in, Boston, it's time to move to Boston.
Move to Boston.
All right. We're going to do our listener question next time. I think we covered anything. Any last thoughts?
No, I think it's a useful exercise. Are we going to try and do it once a year or twice a year? What's our plan?
We'll do it in a couple of years when we remember that we even did it in the
annually, every couple of years.
And also, guys, send us your scores because we want to know how you scored. All right, guys, thank you so much for listening. Guys, always remember, be good to yourself, be good to your friends. Love you, buddy.
Love you, buddy.